Welcome to these virtual sky notes for June. When we look at the whole sky, we can see that about 10:30 in the evening, we can see Venus in the northwest, very prominent, very low down, very bright, and above that is Mars, which is not quite so bright, it's much fainter. We have the bright star Capella in the northwest, and we also have the bright star Arcturus overhead in the western aspect. Moving around to the east, we have the bright stars of the summer triangle, the Deneb in Cygnus and Vega in Lyra, with this bright star Altair in Aquila. So moving on to the various aspects, we can see, looking south, we have very low in the south actually, we have a bright star, very red star Antares making its appearance in the constellation of Scorpio, which is just popping above the horizon at this time of the year by late evening, about midnight. Above that we have constellations of Ophiuchus, and above that we have the constellation of Hercules. Hercules is famous for the keystone asterism, which is very prominent, and within the keystone we have Messier object M13, which is a nice globular cluster, but telescopically, to look at in the midnight hours, as it were. Some of the other faint objects are really getting very difficult to see because of the summer skies in their twilight, as we'll see later on. Moving around to the west, we have to catch Venus by about 10:30 if you want to look at it. It's getting more prominent, and it will be prominent throughout the year, actually. Ursa Major is well positioned, well up into the zenith, and you can follow the handle of the plough round to Arcturus, and then round to Spica in Virgo. So really, in June, we're really looking at planets and moon because of the twilight problem. In north, by late evening or towards midnight, you can see Capella is positioned in the northwest, and the summer skies of Perseus and Cassiopeia, really in the Milky Way, is really positioned well down in the north this time of the year. You can find the pole star obviously by following the two end stars of the plough, that's Merrick and Dubhe, about 5 spaces to a fainter star, which marks the pole, is at the moment for us, with the pole star Polaris. Into the east, the summer triangle is really taking prominence. It's an easy way to find a way around the sky, actually. So get acquainted with that. This month, the new moon occurs on the 10th, which is quite special as a day. We also have first quarter on the 18th, a full moon on the 24th, and last quarter on the 2nd of June. The full moon this month, according to the American calendar, is a strawberry moon. And to see the moon illusion at moonrise, you can look at that around about 21:41 BST on the evening of the 24th of June. And this month, the moon is quite close to its perigee position. So it's a perigee moon, or to coin a phrase, supermoon. So it's slightly larger in apparent size to look at. But the moon illusion really is good to look at. Position yourself with the moon rising in the background, and so foreground things like trees or buildings, and let your brain do the rest. It's quite a good illusion. So at this time of the year, in the midnight hours, we have the opportunity to have a look at Constellations of Scorpius, And a bit later on, Sagittarius. Sagittarius is now for the teapot asterism, and you can see from the map there that the handle is obvious. The teapot is a bit like an old-fashioned teapot that we used to have, and obviously the spout side of the teapot is where all the interesting faint fuzzies occur. That's when the Milky Way is steaming off the teapot spout, as it were. If you get to look at Antares, you'll actually go to the west slightly and pick up M4, which is a very nice globular cluster, and also M80, which is nearby. Looking into the evening sky, obviously other things to look at. We're already into Noctilucent season, which started in late May, and actually has been reported to started a bit earlier this year. So look at the evening sky after about 90 minutes after sunset, and see if you can see these very high level electric blue clouds, very low, positioned in the northern aspect. You can also see a 1.7% waxing crescent moon low in the northwest, close to the planet Venus, on June 11th, at around about 2200 hours, but after sunset. And also you can see on the 12th, 3% waxing crescent moon at about 2230. The really star of the show this month is the partial eclipse. Obviously, we see a partial eclipse, but anyone in Greenland and northern Canada, they get an annular eclipse, which is a total solar eclipse, but not completely covering the sun. So it actually leaves a bright ring around the outside, hence it's called an annular eclipse. But we get to see a reasonable sort of 20% partial solar eclipse on the morning of June the 10th. Of course, I have to give you a warning that do not look directly at the sun with naked eye or any unfiltered optical instrument. Remember to cap up your finderscope. Always use a safe solar projection method. And if you want to look at details on how to safely view the eclipse, you can look at the online details shown on the screen there at skyatnightmagazine.com/advice/skills/solar eclipse-10 June 2021. So we get to see a 21% partial solar eclipse from Luton, and the mid-eclipse occurs at 11:13 BST. So it's a bit of a bite out the sun, really, obviously. So always remember, if you are showing the eclipse with projection method to children, make sure the equipment is supervised at all times. There are a few comet aspects this month, but obviously the skies are too bright, so you can't see any of them really. So just information. So, point of interest this month is the hours of darkness, and in fact there aren't any. We can see that the earliest sunrise occurs at 04:41 on 17th of June. The solstice is on the 21st, and we have the latest sunsets around the 24th of June at 21:25 BST. So there are a couple of asteroids that reach opposition this month. One is asteroid 30, Urania, in the constellation of Ficus, at magnitude 11. There is a newsletter for interest, which is 295, and asteroid number 3 also in Ophiuchus in newsletter 296. So Mars is still hanging around in the evening sky and twilight. It's moving from Gemini into the Cancer the Crab. So it's pretty obscure, but it does actually pass through the Beehive cluster on the evenings of the 21st to 24th. So if you do get a chance to have a look at that very low down in the northwest in late evening twilight, then you might spot an extra interloper within the Beehive, as it were. You can see that with binoculars quite easily. So planets this month. We have obviously mainly of interest is that well, Mercury is out the way. It reaches its inferior conjunction on June 11th. Venus is visible in the evening sky, in the evening twilight, and it will remain actually visible throughout the rest of the year in the evening sky. But in June, it sets around about 10:30. Mars is obviously obscure, but it's a bit difficult to see. So that's, excuse me. So Mars is visible, but it's actually sets quite late into the early hours. It's quite difficult to see actually, and so you can spot it with binoculars. It's a reddish colour, unmistakably. But really, what's coming up of interest in the east is, first of all, the planet Saturn, which is in our midnight skies in the constellation of Capricornus. And a bit later on, about an hour behind Saturn, is Jupiter. Uranus and Neptune are into the dawn skies, and so they're really, for the enthusiasts at this time of the year, they're better placed in the autumn. So let's have a look at the roundup for the astronomical events for the month in June. On June the 2nd, Jupiter has a shadow transit of Europa, crossing the central meridian at 2:50 BST. On the 5th, Jupiter has two shadow transits simultaneously on the planet Io and Ganymede, both visible as Jupiter rises above the horizon at 1:30 BST. The transit ends by 03:17 BST. On the 6th, asteroid 3 Juno reaches opposition at about 10.1 magnitude in the constellation of Ophiuchus in newsletter 296. On the 7th, another Jupiter moon, Europa, is partially eclipsed by the shadow of Io. This is quite a rare event, but telescopically images might capture that. And it's a very short event from 02:36 BST to 02:41 BST. On the 10th, Jupiter's shadow transit of Callisto pre-dawn. So the moon, Jupiter rises at 1:30, and the transit ends at 03:30 BST. On June the 10th, we have a new moon, which is the best time to look at some of the summer skies, clusters of stars, probably in the midnight sky. But that means obviously that's when the eclipse happens. So on the same date, June the 10th, we have a partial solar eclipse. From Luton, the mid-eclipse is 11:13 BST, and we have approximately 21% from Luton and 26% from Liverpool. You can see the details of that and how to view safely in newsletter 294. And remember, please use a safe solar projection method. Do not look directly at the sun with your naked eye or any form of unfiltered optical aid. And of course, that means, so be safe, have a look, but use a projection method. On June 11th, Mercury is inferior conjunction, which means it's not visible in our skies because it's actually very close to the sun in the sky, so we can't see it. Also on the 11th, in the evening, we have a very thin 1.7% waxing crescent moon visible about 30 minutes after sunset, and is positioned just below the planet Venus. Moon set is at 21:37. On the 11th, we have a potential for a LAS mid-month sunset meeting. The details will be reviewed and announced via TMAP. June the 12th, we have Moon and Venus at 2022 30 BST, 6.3 degrees above the northwest horizon. Also on the 12th, we have Jupiter with two shadow transits, Io and Ganymede again, visible, and the transits are there in the early morning sky. On the 13th, we have a Crescent Moon, 10%, visible in the evening sky with Mars 2 degrees to the south of the Moon. So if you haven't spotted Mars yet, 13th of June is a good time to have a look for it with binoculars. June the 16th, Mars reaches its most northerly declination this year at minus 11.7 degrees before slipping southward again. So Jupiter is now in the pre-dawn skies, but is moving into our midnight sky by the end of the month. 17th, we have dwarf planet Pluto opposition. That's in the constellation of Sagittarius. It is above our horizon, but it's really not going to be visible. It's 14th magnitude. June the 18th, first quarter. Best time to see the shadow transit, shadow details up within the crater was on the Terminator. So have a look at the Moon at first quarter on the 18th. And also on the 18th, lunar observers will have a chance to look at a clair obscure effect, the eyes of Clavius, after 2100 hours, and Plato's Hook after 2230 BST. 21st of June, obviously, is the summer solstice. That occurs at 0432 BST. June the 22nd, Mars is located amongst the stars of the Beehive open cluster M44 in the evening twilight. June the 23rd, moves at perigee at 360,000 kilometers. And the day after, we have our full moon, the strawberry moon, occurring, and the moon illusion can be seen at moonrise at 21:41 BST, and in case it's a supermoon this month. Also on the 24th, we have an LAS Zoom meeting where we have our own LAS speaker, Philip Price, who has a summary or overview of the history of the space shuttle due to its anniversary this month of the space shuttle being launched. On the 26th, we have another shadow transit in the early morning of Callisto, 0440 BST. There is a mention of June Boretid's Meteor Shower. Twilight, moonlight interferes. It's in right at the summer solstice at June 22nd to July the 2nd, so it's very difficult to see any meteors in the bright sky. But the thing to look out for really this month is Noctilucent cloud. To say 90 minutes after sunset, low in the northwest, and you'll see these electric blue clouds, hopefully, low down in the northwest after sunset, and 90 minutes before sunrise in the northeast, if you get clear skies and the conditions are right. As always, please, when you're looking at some solar observations or looking for the Crescent Moon, Venus, always ensure that the sun is completely below the horizon if you're looking at Crescent Moon and Venus. And when in case of the solar eclipse, do not look at any part of the sun with naked eye directly without any instrumentation. We have also, coming up next month, we have a members' evening forecast there, and we also have a guest speaker for the next Zoom meeting in July, which I'm pleased to announce will be Dr. Julian Onions from University of Nottingham with a presentation on galaxies 1 gig a year at a time. This is to do with modelling of galaxy evolution. It's fascinating. So look forward to that one. So lots of things going on in June. Please take time to have a look at some of them. Do so safely, and we'll do the same again next month.